Now, about the vaccine rollout, I think this is going to be the make or break for the next little while. The Queensland Premier today suggested that Australia needs to, apart from vaccinating our own people, needs to step up and vaccinate people in Papua New Guinea. Here's what she said today.
We have been assisting with some tests in Papua New Guinea, and out of the 500 tests that our health authorities have done for Papua New Guinea, 250 have come back positive. So this is a real concern. Given our close proximity to Papua New Guinea, I do think it is something that we need to be very serious about.
Rowan, what's she talking about? I mean, literally, Queensland's rollout is pathetic at the moment. It's her state health service that needs to do it. It's pathetic. But the power of these premiers, they are the battering rams that are going to be used to try to undermine the federal government. Polls are where they are today. So as much as I find that lady to be a goose when it comes to COVID overreaction, does she have a point about PNG?
No, she's look. They won the timing of the Queensland and WA elections was very fortuitous because people are still in that fear of COVID. But they're going to learn very quickly, and it's going to come. The realisation is going to come very, very fast, and they're going to be really angry about what they've lost in their lives, communities, small businesses, jobs, education, lifestyle. Not to mention the mental health of so many kids and so many people. They are going to be really, really angry when they realise that these premiers use this purely for their own poll numbers and purely to trick their individual states into supporting them. I'm not as pessimistic about you, and in light of that opinion poll, I think people would rather disembowel themselves with wooden spoons and vote Anthony Albanese and Labor into power. That's just my personal opinion, but I have been wrong in the past, so there you go.
Well, we'll get to the poll thing in a second, Barnaby. I want to ask you about that and what's really on the line here. But Pauline, what about this idea that apparently Australian responsibility, when we have not rolled it out properly here yet, that we're all supposed to be rolling it out in Papua New Guinea as well?
I don't know what Anastasia's on about. She shut the border to Australians. So what's the problem? The border to Papua New Guinea is shut. If she'd only gone on her jet and she'd go up to northern Queensland to Saibai Island, which I've been there, and to actually get an understanding that we have the Border Force, we have Federal Police, we have the Army that are up there. People can't come across to the mainland. It's only a stone's throw. It's only about 5 kilometres between our border and Papua New Guinea. They can't come across because they're all detected and they can't get into the country. So I don't know what she's on about. We actually give Papua New Guinea over $600 million a year in foreign aid. So, you know what? I think they've got the money there to go and get their own vaccines and look after themselves. I just don't know what she's on about, really. Close the borders, Anastasia. Yeah. You've done that to everyone else.
Well, look, Barnaby, just about the point where I was at the start, right, is that I don't want to see Albo as Prime Minister. I don't want to see KK in Foreign Affairs. I don't want to see many of the people on that front bench with power, because they're going to be a way more radical version than they would even present at an election. They'd take their lead from places like the Biden administration, Trudeau, all the rest of it, right? But we can't muck around here.
Environment.
This is it. But if we had a scenario where suburban women, and we'll get to that in greater detail later, if they move, if China's able to influence the view of the 1.2 million people living in this country, let alone vaccine rollout, the consequences are pretty dire for the country.
I say the same thing all the time. The biggest challenge before us, the biggest challenge is not COVID. The biggest challenge is not climate change. The biggest challenge is the ascendancy of a tyrannical superpower, which is the regime in China, the communist regime in China. That is what you have to prepare your daughters, your sons, your granddaughters, your grandsons, and hand to them the liberties and freedoms we have by making this nation as strong as you humanly possibly can. You can put aside the rule book and just make this nation as strong as you possibly can. That's your biggest job. Now, Anastasia Palaszczuk, she's obviously worried about COVID in Papua New Guinea. I'd be worried about COVID there too, but how about tuberculosis, drug-fast tuberculosis? That's also rife there. How about HIV? That's also, there's a massive problem with that. Malaria, child-infant mortality, maternal mortality. These are all big problems. Was she worried about them? Was she worried about them? Or she's just decided that it's on this back of the zeitgeist of where we are now? And I agree with Pauline that a lot of these things have been used as a bulwark as a stalking horse to drive other agendas, which, to be quite frank, are not quite connected to the epidemiology of COVID, but very closely connected to the epidemiology of socialism and what they wish to achieve in that realm. And I think that's where the cynicism comes, where people put aside epidemiology because, I went to Queensland the other day and they discovered this incredible new form of technology. It's called QR codes. We've had them in New South Wales all the way back, so the rhetoric is disconnected from the reality, and politics is absolutely got strong correlation to where Anastasia Palaszczuk is.